Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I have an absolutely massive book haul for you. I was going to film this video at the start of February and then I just kept buying more and more books and it got a little out of hand, so I'm filming it now before I buy any more. Not really going to do a long intro because there are a lot of books here. I'm going to start with kind of miscellaneous ones, then I'm going to do all my thrillers, and then I've got a bunch of horror ones to haul at the end. So if you're only interested in one section, I'll try and put timestamps down below. The other thing I want to mention is I have injured my shoulder at work, so if you see me wince in pain, that's why. I'm okay, it's just, it hurts a bit. So I'll try and edit out all the crying in pain, but I might not catch it all. So without any further ado, let's start this haul. So to start with, I've got two non-fiction books. I've got World Mythology in bite-sized chunks, which I got mainly because I'm really interested in mythology. I used to know a lot about it as a child and I don't anymore, so this is kind of also to get a more adult perspective on it, because this is an adult book and obviously I used to just read kids' books about it. And in a similar vein, I got How the World Works, Religion. So this is just kind of an overview of all the religions in the world. Again, it's something I used to know a lot of from school. My religious studies class was actually really good and they taught us about pretty much all the major world religions, but I've forgotten a lot of it, and it's the kind of thing that I think is important to understand, particularly if you're going to work in mental health, which I hopefully am. The next book is The Afterwife by Cass Hunter. This is a fiction book, they're all fiction books now, and this is a sci-fi about a man who is married to a successful robotics expert or computer expert, and then she ends up dying, but she leaves him with a virtual version of herself to live with. So this obviously gave me massive Black Mirror vibes. I forget what that episode of Black Mirror is called, but that's one of my favourite episodes of Black Mirror, and this just sounded like it might expand on the concept more and I might really enjoy it. Next I have two E. Lockhart books. So I've got We Were Liars, which is the most famous one, and I've also got Genuine Fraud. So We Were Liars is about, I think, a group of friends and something happens and there's like thrillery things going on, but it's young adult, and I think it's also really poetic, which I might not enjoy. I'm not sure how I feel about this book. I've been putting off reading it for years because it has kind of mixed reviews. Some people really love it, some people really hate it. I'm not sure it's my kind of book, but I feel like I have to read it because it is kind of the genres that I like and a lot of people have hyped it up so much, so I do want to read it. I'm just a little apprehensive. Genuine Fraud is the second book by E. Lockhart, and this is about an intense female friendship, which we all know I love, and it's got kind of, I think one of them is lying, one of them's a runaway heiress it says, and one of them's like a fighter. I don't really know what that means. It's, again, I think this was less well received than We Were Liars, but maybe I'll like it more because I'm not sure if I like We Were Liars. But anyway, I got both of them. They're super short. I will read them eventually. The next two books were both cover buys, but they were £1 each in my defence, and they're also genres I do enjoy. So we have Clouds of Witness by Dorothy L. Sayers, and we also have Whose Body, again by Dorothy L. Sayers. These are both murder mysteries, and they're old murder mysteries. I think they're from like the 1920s, I think, maybe 1930s, maybe even earlier. I don't want to specify the date really, but this one has the inspector's brother on trial, and he's a lord, I believe, and he's on trial for shooting someone who was engaged to his sister, I believe, and then he's not cooperating with the investigation even though the inspector's pretty sure that his brother didn't kill them, so it's kind of trying to work out what's going on there. This one is about a body who gets found in a bathroom completely naked apart from, you know, the little gold glasses? I forget what they're called, but like the old-fashioned tiny gold glasses, just wearing those. Again, I really love Agatha Christie. I've never actually read any other murder mysteries from around or even near that time period, so I'm hoping I'll really like these. If not, like I said, the covers are gorgeous, so I don't care. I wanted them. And the final one from this kind of miscellaneous category is Wednesday's Child by Peter Robinson. I talked about these in my favourite thriller cover videos, and this again was reduced to £1, so I had to get it. It is about a child who basically gets kidnapped by these people who claim to be social services and say they have to take the child away, but then they're not really with social services. And there's also another murder that is involved somehow. I haven't read any Peter Robinson yet. I keep meaning to, and I will eventually, but I just felt like I had to pick this up when it was so cheap. So now we're on to the thrillers, and the first one is probably the most well-known one, and that is You by Caroline Kepnes. This I picked up because I've been meaning to read it for a long time. We got it in at work, so it was super cheap for me. And I hate like the Netflix type covers. We also got in Bird Box, and I didn't buy Bird Box, even though I love Bird Box, because I don't like the cover with Sandra Bullock on it. So, but this one was alright, mainly because he is fairly attractive, to be honest. And I just felt like I was putting off reading it, and I thought if I bought it, it would motivate me more to read it. It's not very good logic, is it? But anyway, this is about a stalker who starts dating the person he's stalking, and she's got secrets, he's got secrets. Again, a lot of people love this book, a lot of people hate it. I don't think I'm gonna love it, but I think I'll probably enjoy it quite a lot. And I'm trying to go in with not too high expectations, which might help, because I think a lot of the reason people are disappointed with it is it's hyped up as this really great thriller, but it's fairly basic. It is a young adult thriller, not an adult thriller. So if you read adult thrillers, it might not live up to expectations. Next we have Perfect Silence by Helen Fields. This is a really gritty sounding thriller. It is about a body is found with the outline of a doll cut out of the skin, and then a while later a doll made of skin is found with an abandoned baby, and I believe it's a part of a serial killer list of crimes, so various creepy things keep on happening. I am really enjoying my darker thrillers at the moment, and that as a concept sounds particularly terrifying, so I'm intrigued to see how it plays out in its execution. The next book I kind of picked up just to kind of fulfill a deal, and also because I have heard of the author and I know she's fairly well received, and that is Other People's Secrets by Louise Candlish. This is about a couple who go on a retreat to a villa to kind of patch up something that's happened in their marriage. While they're staying at this villa, another couple arrives and they make friends with them, and then a fifth person gets drawn into their friendships, and he apparently has a link to one of them, is there very deliberately, even though none of them knows it. So this just sounds like a good kind of setup for a thriller. Sounds like it's gonna be based mostly around people's relationships with each other, maybe people messing with each other. I've heard of the author, I haven't read anything by her yet, but I think she wrote Swimming Pool and some other stuff which was fairly well received, so hopefully I'll enjoy this. Next one is Where She Went by B.E. Jones. This has been on my TBR for absolutely ages, and I was really happy to finally get a copy of it. This is about a woman called Melanie, and she wakes up next to a strange man, and she realises she's dead, and she's got to solve her own murder, so she's trying to work out if the man she woke up next to is involved. This isn't the most unique sounding of plots, but I don't think I've actually read any of the books with this premise, so I feel like this is a good place to start. I'm going to be reading this as part of the Buzzwordathon, hopefully, and it is relatively short, so I will get through it this month, ideally. The next book I was so happy to pick up because I got it only for £1 and it's brand new, and that is 13 by Steve Cavanagh. This has been raved about by quite a lot of people whose opinions I respect. So this is about a guy is on trial for murder, and the actual murderer is on the jury. This sounds like a really interesting concept. I've read a book by this author before and I don't really remember it, but I think I enjoyed it. I don't remember hating it anyway, which is something. It's gotten a lot of praise, and while it's not necessarily something I would pick up on my own because it's not really my kind of thriller, I've heard that it's got a lot of stuff about courtroom and that kind of aspect that's not really drawn into a thriller. So that sounds like it'll be really good. Next we have another thriller that's been on my TBR for absolutely ages, and that is Beautiful Liars by Isabel Ashdown. This is about a woman who, when she was a child, her best friend went missing, and then years later she's now the host of a successful TV talk show, and one of the first cases that she's given to handle is that of her missing friend. So as an adult she goes back and investigates what happened to her friend, finds out she didn't really know her as well as she thought she did. Really standard thriller premise, but there's all the kind of things that I like in there. This actually has a really lovely cover, mainly because orange is my favourite colour, so it's been really catching my eye every time I've seen it. And I can't remember if I've read anything by this author, but I have a feeling I have, and I think I really enjoyed it, so I've got high hopes for this one. The next book is by quite a famous thriller author, and that is The Treatment by C.L. Taylor. This is actually young adult, and I believe it's also got some maybe science fiction elements in it. It is about a young girl, a teenage girl, who is sent to a reform school, but the reform school has some dark secrets and it's brainwashing people and bad things are happening. I mainly picked this up to try out C.L. Taylor's writing because she's got a book coming out called Sleep, which sounds really appealing to me. This I got on a cheap deal, so I was like, oh well, I'll pick this up, see if I like her writing style. I'm aware it's young adult, so it'll be kind of different to her adult thrillers, but at the same time it's got quite a cool concept, and it reminds me actually of an old Goosebumps book / episode, so that might have also have something to do with why I picked it up. Finally, from the thriller category, we have Odd One Out by Gilly Macmillan. If you watched my other haul, you might remember that I've hauled 2 books by Gilly Macmillan, which I still haven't read, but this is like the 3rd book that we got in that matches the same editions as the other one, and this went down to £1, so I got it. It is about 2 teenage boys and something happens to them, so one of them ends up in a coma and the other one ends up too traumatised to talk about what happened, and there is a psychiatrist who's trying to work with the child to work out what's happened. I'm not entirely sure this is a thriller. I think it's kind of pitched as one, but it mentions on the back that racial tensions are involved, so it might just be more of a case of like kind of a coming of age story, I guess. But either way, I was going to pick it up, and I'll probably read this last of the Gilly Macmillan books, but I'm still glad I've got it. And finally, I have a whole host of horror books, and they're all by the same author, and that is Peter James. I haven't actually read any Peter James, and this is where I went a bit mental because we had a bunch of them on sale at work, and I was just going to buy one, and then I ended up buying all of them because they all sounded really good. So I have no idea if I like his writing style or not. He's been called the British Stephen King, which a lot of people have, and stuff like that, but they all sound really interesting, and hopefully I won't regret this purchase. The first one is called Denial, and this is probably the most thriller based one of these. Some of these are thrillers, some of them are horror. I've put them all in this little horror section because I think most of the ones I picked up are horror. But this is about a famous actress who takes her own life, and her son decides to seek revenge against the psychiatrist who is treating her because he thinks that it's his fault that his mother killed herself. This obviously I've got a massive interest in psychology, so this really appealed to me. It sounds like a good thriller concept, and there's stuff about like, I just like the idea of someone driven by grief hunting down someone in a thriller setting, because that's a really good motivation for me. The next one is called Faith, and this is about a plastic surgeon who is one of the best in the world, and he's spent all his time making his wife perfect, and then his wife falls ill and she decides to seek out religious healing rather than medical healing, and this makes no sense to the plastic surgeon, and he gets a bit creepy about it, and there's like thriller things happening around that. Again, I think that's just a really good sounding concept. I'm not really going to talk about most of these because, to be honest, my reasons for picking them up are all the same. I like the concept, so I'm trying to make this video shorter because I don't want it to be absolutely huge. The next one is definitely more on the horror side, and that is Dreamer. This is about a woman who, when she was a child, she had nightmares about her parents dying, and then those dreams came true. And now she's an adult and she's started having the same kind of nightmares. She's having dreams about horrible things that are happening. She tries to seek help for it, but nothing's helping. Yeah. The next one is originally the only one I was going to buy, and that is The House on a Cold Hill. This is just a standard haunted house book, which I love. I was going to buy this one because, again, it's got a bright orange cover, it's got a cool sounding concept. I was like, I'll buy this one and see if I like Peter James, and then I just ended up picking up all of them anyway. But I think this is probably the one I'll read first. Maybe this or one I'm going to talk about in a minute, because, again, I just really love haunted house concepts. I know they're overdone, but I think it's just a really good horror concept, really. There's no reason not to do more of them. The next one is called Possession. And this is about a woman called Alex, and she sees her son, Fabian, after he supposedly died. So she seeks out the help of a medium, and she keeps seeing him, and he keeps trying to contact her. She can't tell anyone, though, because she knows a secret about him that no one else knows. Again, standard horror concept. Really creepy. Sounds really good. The next one is Prophecy. This is, I think, another kind of creepy house story. On the blurb, it just mentions that a bunch of horrific events have happened. So, like, a son sees his mother die, drunk students play a Ouija board game, and then it talks about whether or not the house can retain the memories of these incidents. And then I think it's about a relationship in the modern day, and it's being ruined by bad things that keep happening. Already mentioned, I love the haunted house concept, and I like the creepy aspect of the Ouija board and everything. Again, standard horror, sounds good to me. The next one is Twilight, not the Twilight, obviously, and this is about, there is a corpse that is buried and strange sounds start coming from the body, and when they dig it up, something horrific is found. And it's also about a man who is trying to defy death by finding a way of making people exist outside their bodies. So a whole lot of ghost things, a whole lot of creepy zombie things maybe. And the final book is the one that I'm maybe most excited for, and the other one I might start with, and that is Sweetheart. This is about a woman who moves into a house and she's got memories of the house, memories that she can't possibly have. The entire reason I picked this up is because there is an Agatha Christie book called Sleeping Murder with the same premise, and when I read that I was about 13 maybe, and it absolutely scared the crap out of me. So the fact that this, obviously the Agatha Christie book remains rooted in reality because it's Agatha Christie, she rarely dabbles in the supernatural, but this is a horror book, so it probably will go into the supernatural, and I just love the idea of a horror book with that premise. So I've got quite high hopes for that one, and hopefully it won't disappoint. So yeah, that is all of the books I'm hauling today. I've actually just done another massive book order, so I might do another haul again soon, but I didn't want to make this video any longer than it already was. Let me know if you've read any of these, as always. If you've got strong opinions about which one you'd like me to read first, that's always helpful. I want to talk about books that you want to hear about. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, it helps me out massively, and I hope to see you next time.